Okay, so hello everyone. I'm one of the librarians in the Marriott Library. I'm the library liaison for the College of Education, but I've been working with Stephanie quite a few years here now to do the library session on how to do research in the library. That is recorded and on the webpage. So this semester we're trying something totally new, a new session. So I'm also going to ask you to use a new tool that maybe you could use in your online research. And I'll wait till these two people get in, and then I'm going to post a link for you to go to. It's called Jamboard, and it is part of the Google Suite. This is, oh, I have to share my screen. Wait till I share my screen, because you can't see it. Okay. I don't see my, do you see the Jamboard, Stephanie? Because I don't see my green border.
I do see the Jamboard.
Okay, good. So what I would like to do to start off is to have you think about what you're frustrated with and what your challenges are. And there's a little tool down here, a sticky note. You click on that, pulls up a sticky note. It's anonymous. You can just write on there what's driving you crazy. And then you can move them. So wherever it goes on the board, you can move them into these two kind of columns, challenges and frustrations, and what surprised you in a positive way. So I'm going to put this in again because we still have a few more people coming in. So I'll wait to post it here till some more people get in. Oh, Stephanie, you posted it. Awesome.
I'm going to do it again in a few minutes too, because I know people are still adding.
We discovered that when I put a link in the chat, if you didn't come into Zoom, you don't see it. Oh, these are good. Self-motivation, accountability. Not able to attend data collection. And you can click on them and move them wherever you want to move them. So like I can click this one and move this one. Motivation. Isn't this a cool tool? It's like doing brainstorming virtually. We have a lot more frustrations and challenges than we have online workshops. Yep. If we run out of space, we have multiple boards, so we can move the board, but just overlap them, just throw them in there. And then we'll come back to these. Okay, one more minute. So throw a few more in there and then we'll move on. Flexibility, love flexibility. Stephanie and I were just talking about that. You don't have to come to the SIL Center. She doesn't have to schedule a room. It's awesome. Okay, all right. So you can continue to go in and put stuff in there if you think of it as we go through. What's nice about this is I can make a PDF of it and I'll give it to Stephanie and she can post it on the education page. Okay, now I'm going to, oops. Okay. So let's start with the objectives. So I think it's really important for you to reflect on your own experiences and challenges and lessons that you learned. And to what I'm finding with doing remote working as well as remote research is to really do a lot more reflection on why am I doing this? How could I do this differently? Who do I need to talk to? Where before I would just be in the library and I could just talk to another librarian. Now I have to do a little more planning and reflection. We're going to explore some resources and tools to help you with conducting research and working remotely. I'm going to talk about some strategies that might help you stay organized and help you with conducting research remotely. And then brainstorm some ideas for those online spaces for collaboration, communication, disseminating research. So this tool that I just used is called Jamboard. So if you go into Google, it's one of the tools in there. And I think I had to do like a little app install to get it to work. But say you needed to do some brainstorming with someone in your research group, or you wanted to create a little concept map of topics that you need to research, that would be a great tool. And it's easy to use. You just set it up and then you just share the link. So what is remote research? So remote research uses technology to replace what you would do physically in the lab, or to do library research, whichever way you're doing that. And I'm going to stop a minute here and ask you actually what kind of research you guys are doing. But it's really two different kinds of remote research, what we call synchronous research and remote working, and asynchronous. So what we're doing here now is called synchronous Zoom. So we're all online at the same time. We can interact, we can talk. This is the closest that we can get remotely to being in person. Asynchronous is where you're doing work online, you're working remotely, but you're not working at the same time as everybody else. So you might go in at 2 o'clock in the morning and work on a report or a presentation, and someone else might get up at 7 o'clock in the morning and work on that. That's asynchronous. So think about these two different formats of being online, because you can use them differently for different types of tasks that you have to do, whether you're doing library research or whether, so for example, with library research, I do Zoom consultations with students, and we meet in a Zoom room and we brainstorm keywords and we do some testing of search terms and search strings, and we go through and look for resources. But then the student can go off and they're going to do asynchronously, continue that research after that. That's an example of how that synchronous and asynchronous works. Okay. So what's happening for you on the ground? And I'm just going to stop this sharing for a minute because I want to be able to see you. So feel free to unmute yourself and put on your video if you want, or whatever. What kind of research are you guys doing? Because I want to talk specifically to those that are doing laboratory research. You can't, if you're not doing laboratory research, what kind of research are you doing? So anybody jump in there.
Yeah, I can go first.
Okay.
Yeah, my name is George Garcia. I thank goodness I got permission to do some research in person, but I will probably find myself doing some asynchronous and synchronous research from home as well. My research is on measuring cognitive load, specifically when people use advanced prosthetics. And so much of it is going to be recording data that we can get through EEG electrodes on their heads, and also some of their response times, because we're going to be prompting them to do some other things while they're doing some activities.
Okay. So you have the best of both worlds. You're going to get some physical on site and some electronic.
Yeah.
Okay, somebody else. Awesome. Thanks, George. Anybody else? You want to raise your hands so you can use, or you can use reactions down here. Give me a little thumbs up. Are you doing library research, like writing literature reviews, writing, collecting electronic resources? Anybody? Thumbs up? All right, raise your hand. There's one. Awesome. 3, 4, 5. Great. Okay. So who else is on site doing research? Anybody besides George? Jonathan, Billy? Okay. Oh, nope. They were the last ones. We only have George. So George, you're the lucky one, getting to do both kinds of research. Okay. All right, I'm going to go back and I'm going to share my screen again. So when you're working electronically or remotely, it is really helpful to think about what tools you can use that will help you be more efficient. And it's not just for using the library, but how can you communicate with others? How can you share? How can you interact with other people based on your research? So the one thing we're going to look at here is going to talk about some tools first, and we're going to talk about strategies and support. So for those of you that don't know, you have Box, which is a terabyte of cloud storage space, and I'm going to give Stephanie this PowerPoint so that you'll be able to go in and click on all these links and have access to these. So if you're not aware that you have a cloud storage space, this Box is like my favorite research tool because I can store data there as well as files. So I put PDFs up there that I'm using for my literature review, and I also put qualitative data up there that I'm collecting as part of my qualitative data. It is HIPAA and FERPA compliant, so it does meet the needs of research, whereas if you put stuff in Google Drive in a folder, that is not considered secure. So you don't want to put any data up there. You want to use a secure space. You can use Google Drive, but the U also has a thing called G Suite. It's gcloud.utah.edu. This may be a little more secure because it's with your unit and your password, so you have to authenticate, dual authentication on it. But also, it's much easier to use because you just log in with your unit and your password. So all of these 3 tools, you use your unit and your password to get into these. So you know how when you're using Google Drive and you're like, what's your Google address? Who is this? It's some weird name and I don't know who this person is. With here, you just put in the person's name and then they pop up and you add them. It has the same tools. So if I click here, you'll see it has the same tools. You have Google Drive, you have Google Forms, you have Google Calendar, Photos, you have all the stuff you need, just like you would in Google Drive, but you log in here with your unit, not with your Google account. Office 365 is free for you. So you have Teams, which has a video component, so you can meet people one-on-one. There's a notebook feature. You can do meetings with agendas and take lab notes. There's a chat feature, file storage, teams. You can create little teams. And anybody that did any research over the summer, I think, Stephanie, you were using Teams because I was working with Cindy First and Lizzie, actually. And we were using Teams to communicate. So this is also free for you, and you log in with your unit and your password. So each one of these tools has different features. Box I use more for storage, G Suite I use more for like collaborating on PowerPoints, and Office 365 is more for team work, if that would help you think about how to use those tools. For STEM, we have a product called Lab Archives. Does anybody use Lab Archives? You can unmute yourself because I can't see you guys when I'm doing my, so Lab Archive, let's see if can I remember my login? Oh, I use my UEU login. So I log in with my email. So if your team is using this, oh no, I didn't want to do that. Or maybe I did. So what this allows you to do is you create a lab book with your team, and you can store files and documents and set up folders to share materials. So there's 88 materials in here. It keeps track of your revisions. So this is something that's usually used in the physical lab for people that are working in the physical lab and sharing data, but it can also be used electronically if you need to do that. If you're working with a PI that's on a grant, this tool, the Dmp tool, is like a step-by-step template to write a data management plan for your grant. So I always like to put that in because sometimes students kind of get tasked with write up something about how you're storing your data and where you're storing your data, and this kind of walks you through the process. Concept mapping is a way that you can create concept maps and share them with your team. Are people familiar with concept maps? I can show you an example of one later. I use them when I do my literature review. So you have a concept map, and I'll show you an example when we get to the end, where you put like in the center what your topic is, and you start brainstorming topics around that. And then I use it as I go through my literature review, and I keep adding subtopics and topics to my concept map. So in the end, I have a big picture of what my topic contains. And then it helps me to focus in on what I'm going to be doing my research on. I'm a visual person, so rather than write an outline, like what are my subtopics going to be, I use a concept map. And this one is in the cloud, and it's free. Adobe Cloud for creating diagrams, charts. So Adobe Illustrator, Adobe Photoshop for images. That's all free for you, and you can log into the cloud and set up your free account. The library has applications as well. So I'm going to click on here and go to the library. So through the library, we have available software, and you can search, like if you're doing statistics, this will show you all the software that the library has in the library. The library is open, but it's very limited access, so there's a lot less machines. Group rooms have been converted into one-person rooms. There are some computers still on the second floor, so you could go in and use a Mac or a PC, but some of these applications are available remotely. So if I click here, it will tell me what I need to install on my laptop, Microsoft Remote Desktop, or Apps Anywhere, so that you can access these apps electronically, so you don't need to come to the library. These are all available remotely. It lost my statistics when I left there. So we have SPSS, and we have Maple, MATLAB, Minitab, Stat Plus, and it says there's 181, so I don't see an arrow to move on. Sas R Studio for using R. Some of these do not say available remotely on them, but you can check it out because I worked with someone up at the medical school this week who we use a product called NVivo to do qualitative research, and it does not say it's available remotely, but he installed Apps Anywhere on his computer, and he actually could access NVivo from his computer at home. So you might want to check it out when you log in with either the Microsoft virtual desktop or Apps Anywhere, and that's kind of like a pilot right now. then you can check it out and see what's available to you, because all the applications will be there on the desktop for you to use. All right. So just to let you know that you all have a free Zoom account. If you go to utah.zoom.us, you can set up your own Zoom account. So we're using Stephanie's Zoom account right now. Thanks, Stephanie. But you have your own, everyone on campus, faculty, staff, and students have an account. This is really helpful, even if you just want to contact your family. So I have family back east, and my mother doesn't use computers, and neither does my sister, but my brother and I have used my Zoom account to just connect with each other because I can't get back east to visit. Zoom is also a place where you can meet with your colleagues. So if you're working on a team project, you can get in there together and work as a team. It will record whatever you're working on, which is awesome. And if you're doing qualitative research, you can do interviews in Zoom and send it to the cloud, your recording to the cloud, and it will create a transcript for you. So you can use it as a research tool as well as a communication or presentation tool. I worked with Lizzie and a few other students this summer with Cindy First on a Europe project, and they created their final presentation. Or did you use Zoom, Lizzie, or did you end up using the product that Cindy was talking about? I don't know. In Canvas, you have a product called Kaltura. So when you're in a Canvas course, you have a My Media link in the navigation menu, and you can record your own videos there using a product called Kaltura, which you can download a little app for your computer so that when you go in and click on My Media and say, create a new video, it will pop up and it will let you record a screen capture like we're doing here. Or you can just record a video of your head, a talking head. Everything gets stored in your My Media, and then you can pull it into different locations or you can download it, which I find really helpful.
Just so you know, Izzy totally answered you in the chat. Can't remember but what the name is, but whatever Cindy First used.
Oh, whatever Cindy used. Yeah, it was like something presenter, I think. I forget.
Active presenter.
Yes, that's it. That's it. That's it. You also have access to Skype for Business, which also does meetings and video through your Office 365. If you're doing qualitative or quantitative data analysis, we do have software for both. We have NVivo and Atlas TI, which can be used remotely for qualitative analysis. We also have SPSS, SAS, Stata, Stat Plus, Minitab, and we also in the library, and I don't have that on here. We have a Stats TA that you can meet with in Zoom that can help you with doing statistics. And Stephanie, I'll add that to this slide before I send this to you, okay? It's like a weird email address. Oops, go back. Transcriptions for text, you can use Zoom. So it does do it by artificial intelligence. So it's not exactly perfect, but it really does help. If you're doing interviews, focus group, any kind of text. There is an app for your phone called otter.ai, which gives you a limited amount of free recording and transcribing. You can transcribe in real time. So if you were interviewing someone using your phone, it can get automatically transcribed as they're talking. And there's two other products, rev.com and temi.com, which will give you 45 minutes at a time of free transcription by AI. Google Docs also has a record feature in it. So if you open up a Google Doc, and I believe it's under Tools, you click on a little, I forget what it's called, Transcribe, I think it's called, and then it'll pop up a little microphone in your doc window, and you turn it on and start talking, and it will type it for you. I use this tool a lot when I'm writing, so I have so much stuff in my head, I can't seem to get it out on a piece of paper. I just sit there looking at the white document, and I can't get my my head together, can't get it out of my head onto paper, but it's easier for me to talk about it. So I just talk and record everything. And then I go in and take the text that's created in the Google Doc and rearrange it and make paragraphs and do all that kind of stuff. And I can show you where that is if you'd like to see a little demo of that. The library, we created this summer a new library page, which is called the Marriott Library one-stop page. And because we're remote with COVID, we've been getting a lot of requests from students who are like, well, there's stuff on the library page and there's stuff in library guides and there's stuff that individual librarians have. So we tried to pull it all together into one spot for you. If you self-enroll in this course, and you do not have to, this link is a wide open Canvas course, but if you would self-enroll, I'm doing announcements to let people know what's going on with the library. For example, during our circuit breaker time, starting on September 29th, the library will be totally closed. So if you need to get a book out of the library before then, it would be helpful to do it now, because we'll be totally closed for 2 weeks during that circuit breaker time over the break when they're doing the vice presidential debate. There's sections for faculty, undergraduates, and graduates. And then down here are some frequently used resources like Interlibrary Loan, and I can answer any questions about that, suggest a purchase. I have a 5 top strategies. So this is in line with the presentation that is recorded and on the URES education webpage. And I made this 5 pages. So there's a handout with 5 strategies. This first one is for undergrads. Grads have some extra stuff that you guys don't have. And then I have little what I call think alouds. How do you do a search and go broad? How do you dig deeper? So these are really short little videos that I talk through as I do things that you can watch, which might give you some strategies like mine what you find. So if you find a really good resource, I call it mining, where you go in and you copy the titles of the references and try to find them in Google Scholar, or you look for keywords that you can use to make your search a better search. There's some links to some of these tools we're talking about today, like creating a research toolbox, other resources in the library. So these are all resources that you can use that are available. And this one has 5 pages, 1 for each strategy, and it's linked into that main. So if I go back to the online one-stop, it's attached to this website, okay? Interlibrary Loan, and I'll answer some questions and talk about this when I can see you. So if you have not used Interlibrary Loan, you can click on this link and set up your account. So I'm going to log in since I'm logged in. Oh, I guess I'm not logged in. Now I forget how many times I'm logged in and not with this dual authentication that started 2 days ago. Sometimes I'm not logged in. Oh, and I can't, oh, I guess I have the wrong number here. That's what it is. The password's right, but not that. So when you go, no, I can't talk and type at the same time. Let's try this again. One more time. Yes. Okay. So if you have not used Interlibrary Loan, this is where you get articles for free. So say you go to the library and you find that we do not have a full text of an article you need to do your research. You can go in here to new request and you can request an article. I don't believe they're doing physical book sharing during Interlibrary Loan during COVID, but they will scan a chapter or two, 10% of the document, and they can send that to you. Reports, thesis, And then when they digitize it, they'll send you an email and you click on here, and then the transaction number will be under here. So these are all of my old requests. I don't have any current ones, but you would click on this number and then it would pull up the PDF and you can download it. You only have about 3 weeks. It'll give you over on the end how long you have till it expires, and that's for copyright reasons. But so usually when I get a ILL document delivered to me, I download it right away so that I don't forget not to pull it down before it expires, and I have to order it again. If you're interested in using citation management tools that will help you format your references in APA, MLA, Chicago, IEEE, whatever management system your citation management format you're using, this is a really great research guide that will give you an overview of what those are. We have what are called library research guides, and I have a literature review guide, and I have an annotated bibliography. So if you have to write some short annotations on some sources for your research team, this library guide will help you with that. This is information about the library, and it changes on a pretty regular basis. So if you have any questions about the library, I would use this main contact page and do a live chat or ask a library question in our library forum, like, is the library open today? Up here it says today's hours. And if you click on that, it will give you all the hours. So it'll show you when they're open. So you see, starting the 27th, we are closed for 2 weeks. So if you need any information about the library, that's kind of my go-to page. If you want to request a book to be mailed to you, so you currently can't go out into the stacks in the library and find books, but this little video will give you a really good strategy for finding books. We have a virtual browse feature in the catalog, and then this email address here, if you find a book, this mlibdelivery@list, they will send it to you. I don't know how long they're going to be doing this, but we're currently sending out books to people's home addresses. So as long as you're in the United States, I believe they'll send you a book. If you find a book in the catalog, you can email the title, the author, the date it was published to this email address, and they will send you a book in the mail. You can't go out into the stacks because there's been research that's been done that COVID can be shared on books. So now they did some research and found that 3 weeks is how long it takes for the COVID to disappear on the paper. So when a book comes back into the library, it has to sit in quarantine, just like people, for 3 weeks before it can be put back into the system and then reassigned to somebody else. Okay. So there is information here also about the library space changes. So what used to be group spaces are now single person spaces. What used to be the grand reading room, a nice quality, quiet space behind glass doors, is now a classroom. So you can't go there to study in quiet anymore. So all of those changes are on these links. And when Stephanie posts this, you have access to all those links. If you're new to Canvas, here's a link that will give you some information about using Canvas as a student. You might want to look at some free project management tools. So this is one that I use, which is called Trello, and it's free. It does have a login that you can use your unit login, but I think I have this one set up with my Google. This is my tenure process. So this is my old stuff that's all done up to 216, but I'm in the middle of my 5-year tenure review. So I set up 3 of these boards and I put in all the tasks that I have to do. Oh, this one I'm done. So this one, I created a blog about boundary crossing in WordPress. So I'm going to move that to my done column. So I moved them from to do doing, and done. And this helps me because I see progress, like I'm getting stuff done. A lot of times we make a list and then we cross it off or we delete it. And I like to see what I've finished because it just makes me feel better. It makes me crazy when I feel like I'm not getting anywhere. I'm spinning my wheels. Okay. I also added 2 posts to my blog, so I can get rid of that. So once you create these large cards, you can add your tasks to the card. And it just helps me keep track of what's going on. Oh, I did this. I can move this to do. I'm in the middle of doing this to my portfolio, set up a portfolio. So this kind of helps me manage my tasks. You can use this collaboratively, but I don't do it that way. I just use it for myself. Speaking of portfolios, we have a new tool called Portfolium that is linked into Canvas. So let's see, I think if I just click login since I'm in, yeah, okay. So this is a tool that's free for you. And if you set up a portfolio now, you can keep it forever. You can take it with you. So Portfolium is the product, but you have to go into Canvas to set it up in your profile under Folio. And once you set it up, you can pull some of your research products that you've been working on into a portfolio. So this is a poster that I created, and this is a presentation that I've done, and here's a document that I wrote. So right now I'm in the middle of trying to figure out how I can set up a portfolio that I can use for my tenure review with all my evidence files of things that I've created. For you guys, if you have something in a course related to a course, you can add a new project, and then you can add your items and pull them directly out of Canvas so you don't have to recreate the wheel. But in my case, I don't have any Canvas courses, so I'm just creating everything from scratch. Okay, so do we have any questions about, I'm going to stop sharing here for a minute because I'm going to, what time are we here? 3:09, okay. Any questions about tools?
Are there any things that you all need tools for that you don't currently have that might be a question?
Maybe we can help you with. It seems like we have an awful lot of tools, actually. No questions? All right, so let me go into my tips. So strategies for coping. So some people are coping better with remote work and remote research better than others. But here's some things that I found that have been really helpful for me. I'm kind of a strategic organizer person, and I have to have like strategies to like move forward. So the first one is to get organized. Decide what you're going to use and kind of explore those tools. Figure out how they'll work best for you. So maybe Box might not be your tool, but maybe Google Drive may, but then you might use Box for your data that you're collecting. Like have a plan of some kind on how you're gonna get organized. Chunk out your work. This is a really important one for me because if I just keep working and working and I don't take breaks and I don't see progress, I get really frustrated and depressed. So set some goals for yourself, chunk out your work. Like this morning, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. Like this morning, I was working with this person working in NVivo, and he's having trouble with his data, and he sent me his file to look at. So I'm like, okay, before I even check my email, before I do anything, I'm gonna go into this file and I'm gonna look at it and I'm gonna send him an email with my advice. So I keep track of my work and I chunk my work, which helps me kind of keep my sanity. Remember to keep connections. So try to reach out and connect to people and to things. So my biggest connection that I use every day, all day, is my connection from Google Scholar to the library. And I can show you how that works. Stay connected with your research team. So I went to a little afternoon happy hour for someone that I'm working with who's in Baltimore. And since I was 2 hours behind them, the guy who was hosting the party was having a beer, but I was drinking tea because it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. But he said, I just want to see everybody's face and talk about something that's not related to work. So he scheduled this in Zoom, and we all got on and we talked and how we're doing and how we're all feeling and about all the crazy weather that's happening around the country. It was just really helpful to stay connected to these people that I don't normally get to see. Think about flipping, like reading and preparing for meetings in advance, and then using Zoom to brainstorm and solve problems. So instead of just coming to a Zoom like this and going through a PowerPoint, I'm sorry. Maybe think of how you could all do work outside of this and then come into Zoom and actually get to interact with each other. Okay. Divide and conquer. So this is kind of that chunking concept. Like, what tasks do I need to do in person? What tasks can I push off online? Think about that asynchronous, synchronous piece. Do we need to do this in person? Can we do this apart? And get organized that way. Divide up your responsibilities. Use spreadsheets for deadlines. Use your calendar. I've color-coded my calendar since COVID. So I actually have 3 jobs as part of my one library job, and I have color-coded them so I can go into my calendar and say, I only want to see these things. Where am I? What's coming up for this aspect of my job, which has really helped me kind of stay organized. Mix up your tasks. So a lot of times when you're doing research, you're writing and you've hit like a brick wall and you can't write anymore. So think about what you could do. You could format citations. You could do some more research. You could do some reading. So think about how you can break up your tasks. So during the day, I break up where I work. So I'm in a little bungalow. Some days my husband's here working at home. Some days he's not. This is my comfy chair for doing Zoom. And I always sit in this chair when I do Zoom. But then I have like a large bookcase that I stand at right before I go into my dining room. So then when I have coffee and I'm checking email, I stand there. And then I have my basement, which is a separate room. And if I'm writing, I go down there because it's totally quiet and I don't have to deal with my animals and anything else that's going on up here. So think about how you can find spaces in your house that you can do different tasks in different places, and then you have to get up and you have to move around, and it kind of breaks the monotony. Okay, so let me stop sharing and then I can take questions. We have 15 minutes. So, let me go back to that document, my Jamboard, because maybe we could get some questions from here. So it looks like motivation is these motivation ones. Tiny questions over email. Yeah, this is kind of a problem, isn't it? So maybe keep a journal and put your questions in there and then email someone with like a series of questions. I have been keeping what's called a bullet journal, which I don't have with me right here. But if you Google it, it's a paper journal, and I keep an index. So as I go from Zoom meeting to Zoom meeting, I take notes, and then I have an index so I can go back and find my notes very easily. I keep a little calendar in there. And then because I'm doing it in paper, I use Google Doc, or I use otter.ai, and I read my notes into that and make a digital copy for myself. Because sometimes when I'm trying to be on Zoom and use my computer and take notes, it drives me crazy. So I write them out and then I digitize them. More time, wanting to spend more time in the lab. Yeah, I can see where that is a problem, and hopefully We've had our worst day today. We had 911 cases reported today in Salt Lake, in Utah. But I'm hoping that it's going to get better and they'll start laxing the schedule so that you'll be able to get back into the lab. My daughter's taking a chemistry course right now and they can't be in the lab, and she's like really disappointed about that. So they're watching like demos and there's workarounds, but I know that's something that you really need to be able to do. Not able to attend data collections. So this would be, so if someone else is doing data collections in person in the lab, maybe you can have somebody set up a laptop and you can watch what they're doing, like be a stalker in the lab. I don't know if that would help. Writing emails does take more time than talking in person. So again, you could use one of those voice tools, and type it out, and then digitize it. That might help. Slower response to question and issues, yes. And it would be helpful in Teams if you could set some expectations in your team, like we're going to try to respond to everyone in 24 hours, or I check my, like if you know your PI checks their email at 10 o'clock in the morning, then you'll get your email in before then. So maybe talk about some expectations on emailing and questions so that you'll know when you need to submit your question, so maybe it would get answered faster. I do that when I teach. I put that in my syllabus, how often I check email, when I check email, so that people know if they want to reach me, I'm going to be checking my email, so they should reach me by this time. Some of the surprising positive things. So let's focus on these challenges. The uncertainty of finding reliable resources. So do you mean library resources with that? Because if you use my 5 strategies, I start with Google Scholar, and then I go into the library catalog. And if you're wondering if it's a good peer-reviewed resource, we have a database for that. It's called Ulrichs under U, and you can check to see if that journal is actually peer-reviewed. So you can check if what you're finding is really a good resource. Would it be helpful for me to demonstrate that?
It certainly can't hurt.
Okay. Do we have any other questions in the chat? No.
There are not any questions in the chat.
Okay, so let me share my screen again. I have a lot of links open because I was clicking on all those things while I was in that PowerPoint. But let me see what I can find here. All right, so I'm going to go to Google Scholar, and I'm just going to do search educational research, which I find 4 million. So I'm going to use these little quotation marks to narrow down. And if you watch the video from before for the library, you'll learn about that. Let's see if we can find a journal. A lot of these are books. Okay, here's one. Review of educational research. So if it's in Google Scholar, it's pretty good chance that it's going to be a reliable resource. It's either going to be a book, a dissertation, or a journal article. It's not like Google. It will give you good, reliable resources. But in case you want to check, then I would copy the journal and I would go to databases and go to U and Ulrichs right here, the second one, and paste in that journal name. Oops, I guess I didn't copy it. So, copy. Let's try that again. And then if I put the journal name in there, it will show me the journal. There's 3 of them because one is in print, one is in microfilm, which you don't want to use, and one is electronic. But it's the same journal, it's just 3 different formats, so it has 3 different entries. But all of them have this black shield, and this black shield means that it's a refereed journal, which means that there is an editor that sends out these articles for review from experts, and it's not published unless it's reviewed by outside experts. So this is a super good, reliable journal. And you can easily do that with any of the journals. Most of these are actually books. Oh, so then if I find a book here, I could copy the title and I could put that into the library catalog and see if we have that book. So you can find a book out on Google Scholar and you can see if we have it, which we do. But it's available in the music library. That's kind of odd for an education book. Well, I guess it's music education. Here it is, get all options. So there's one in the Marriott and there's one in the music library. So say you wanted to take this book out, you can't go in the stacks because you're not allowed to touch the books, but you could click here and log in, and it may ask for a second login, but it's not. And then you'll get these menus. So you can request the book here, and someone will go and find it and bring it to the first floor of the library for you to pick up, and you'll get an email when it's ready. Or you can take this information and send it in that email to have the book mailed to you. So you could do it either way. Okay. What other questions do we have? No questions today, huh? So is anyone actually doing quantitative or qualitative research? You'll raise your hand or give me a little thumbs up.
I am, but you answered my question earlier.
Okay. Because if you're doing qualitative, I can help you. You could do it with Excel qualitative, or I could work with you with the software package if you want to try it electronically. It depends on your connection and your computer on how well it works. If you're doing quantitative, let me see if on the library homepage, do we have the TA? Oh, we do. So I'm just going to make a quick thing, and I'm going to stick this into the chat so that you guys can, I'm going to upload this file from my computer. I just made a screenshot of the stats TA's information. So you can click to open and download. This is the stat TA that you can make an appointment with that will meet you in Zoom. So they're located in the library. They're a master's student who's specializing in statistics, social science statistics, and they can meet with you and help you with statistics. Okay. Any other questions?